Hi, and welcome to Z Games. Recorded live at 4ZZZ Studios in Brisbane and broadcast nationally over the Community Radio Network, Z Games brings you the latest gaming news, reviews and interviews from across Australia and around the world.
You're listening to Z Games, the greatest gaming radio show to ever come out of this country, whichever country it is that you are listening to this radio station in. We are coming to you live from the 4ZZZ Studios in Brisbane, but you might be listening to us around the nation on the Community Radio Network. In the ZZZ studio for this episode, Jody Macgregor.
Hello.
Razor.
Hey Lee. Hey Lisa.
I am Lee. Candy is not here because of some sort of Komodo dragon related incident. We're not sure of the details, but she's not in. She'll tell us next week. Write in, listeners, if you have any suggestions.
It's a shame she's not here with us because she's a huge fan of Mortal Kombat, which is what we're going to be talking about this week.
Mm-hmm.
Lee, you purchased the game legally this time.
I know, it was so good. I was able to buy it in my country of origin rather than having to go to the one next door to get it.
So the three of us had a delightful play session on the weekend where we gleefully disemboweled each other.
Mm-hmm.
Delightful's not the word, but yes.
So as well as Mortal Kombat X, is that what they're preferred to be called? Mortal Kombat X or Mortal Kombat 10?
It. I think we could call it Mortal Kombat 10 if we wanted to.
Yeah. We know what that X means.
As well as that,
Christmas.
We'll be talking about Never Alone, which is a awesome little platform game based on the Inuit culture.
Mm-hmm.
And if we have time at the end of the episode, we'll be talking about Primal Extinction.
Primal
Carnage Extinction. Which is a asymmetrical arena game which pits dinosaurs versus hunters. Let's get this episode started with the weekend gaming news headlines. Jody?
Sure thing. 2K Australia, the last remaining AAA games development studio in the country, has closed down. Known as Irrational Canberra until 2007, the studio most recently shipped Borderlands, the pre-sequel, and co-developed all the games in the BioShock series. A source within the studio said that the costs of operating out of Australia were to blame for the closure, as well as a proposal to relocate to Melbourne that saw many senior staff quit.
That's a real shame to see them go.
Yeah, that's tragic.
A lot of really good stuff. A lot of good, talented people there. Did you see the... as a result of this, though, there was a hashtag movement to get a current listing of local and international gaming jobs made available and to try and hook people up as much as possible.
Yeah, and there was like a Google Doc with a spreadsheet and they were filling it in as they were trying to find jobs for people. It was really nice. Yeah,
it got to the point actually where there were too many people trying to access and write in the spreadsheet. That they had to have a roster system to add stuff to it, that's nice. That's good. Well done, industry. Sorry about money being a problem, as it always is.
It's very disheartening as well, I think, especially for maybe people who are studying game design right now, knowing that there are no big studios in Australia for them to get work at.
Yeah.
So, the options now are limited. I mean, you have to either go it alone, do your own thing, make a indie studio with you and some of your fellow graduates, or try and get into another smaller studio, which is difficult as well.
Yeah, it's really limiting. I think most students view the larger studios as a good place to get their feet wet, and now they don't have that. And it's really, I think, it's a very difficult thing to imagine when you're in your final year that all you can do is band together and try and make it on your own without any industry contacts and things like that.
Matt Armstrong, creator and franchise director of Borderlands, has left Gearbox Software. The parting appears to be amicable, with Armstrong tweeting, "I will always love Gearbox, but it's adventure time." According to his LinkedIn profile, he developed the concept of Borderlands and personally designed and implemented every gun in the game. Development of Borderlands 3 will continue without Armstrong.
That's a lot of guns.
Yes.
That is played Borderlands.
A lot of guns.
I thought there were infinite number of guns, which goes to show how obsessed this guy is making guns, I guess.
Yeah, I hope he gets a productive job in society.
But there is adventure game coming. Sorry, an Adventure Time game coming at the end of the year. He said it's Adventure Time. Subtle hint.
That's one possible conspiracy.
If the next Adventure Time game has 15,000 guns in it, then we all know you were right.
Yeah. You heard it here first, folks.
Blizzard's next game will launch on the 2nd of June. Heroes of the Storm is a multiplayer online battle arena game, similar to League of Legends and Dota 2. The game enters open beta on the 19th of May. 30 heroes will be available at launch, with more to follow.
I'm kind of interested, even though Dota 2 and League of Legends terrify me. This has enough interesting things going on that maybe I'll be able to get into it. Maybe, like, if I get in early, the audience won't be immediately toxic, right?
Well, it'll also be streamlined, right? Part of the deal here is they're not making something as complicated as League of Legends.
Yeah.
So it will probably be easier to pick up and more likely to attract new people rather than just sort of build a core of people who hate everyone.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, Sean, our intern, was telling us about this last year. He said that because the matches are shorter, like 15 to 20 minutes, as opposed to League of Legends 45 minutes thing, it's a little less intense, which I guess could go far in making the community a bit less toxic when it comes to dealing with people who are new to the game.
Yeah. Was Sean a fan of the genre, or was he just in it because...
As far as I know, he had a lot of time with Dota and League of Legends under his belt as well.
Okay, right. Okay, so he had kind things to say about it, if I recall. His impish face was grinning a lot.
Yeah, it does that.
Yeah.
The release date for Star Wars Battlefront has been set for the 17th of November 2015, with further details about the game as well as a trailer appearing online this week. The game, which is being developed by Battlefield studio DICE, will see players representing either the Rebel Alliance or the Galactic Empire as the two sides battle on expansive maps featuring a maximum of 40 players. There will be no space battles, but players will be able to use some of the iconic vehicles from the film series, including X-Wings, TIE Fighters, speeder bikes, and the Millennium Falcon. Locations include Hoth, Endor, and Tatooine. Darth Vader and Boba Fett will be playable characters.
Now, this isn't a particularly new thing. We've had Battlefield games that sounded like that before, but I can't help but be incredibly excited about the idea of playing a game of shooty Star Wars, right?
Yes, both of those previous Star Wars Battlefront games were a lot of fun, and I would happily keep playing them or play a new version of that same thing for quite a long time.
I'm looking forward to ripping it up in a TIE Fighter.
Yeah.
That sounds really good to me, but my excitement is tempered a little bit by DICE's history, their reputation as far as launching games goes. I mean, Battlefield 4, it's a great game now, but there were several issues at launch that were troublesome. So hopefully with such, Star Wars fans, they love their stuff. Hopefully with those expectations up, they'll put a bit more effort into launching a solid game.
Yeah, come on, guys. Get it together, DICE.
Yeah, you tell them, Lee.
I will. Yeah, they're listening in right now, most likely. This is exciting, though. It's been a while since there's been a Star Wars-y game. They kept it quiet so that we didn't get sick of the idea. And now suddenly they're back, showing us the same Star Wars game. And I'm like, all right, it's the game again. Can't wait. I get to play as Darth Vader on the battlefield again, like the last one. Yes! Like, there's nothing new in this trailer, just that they're doing this again, and I'm so excited. I'm really bought into exactly what they're trying to do here. Mm-hmm. Keep it up, guys. Keep doing this. It's apparently working. Yeah. I do think that there's an issue with the fact that they're like, you can control all of the great spaceships from our game, you can't go into space. I think that is a little bit sad. I hope it still feels good to fly around like 10 feet off the ground in the Millennium Falcon. Like, I hope you can at least like clear everyone's heads, right?
That would be ideal, yes. The space battles were always kind of the weakest part of the previous Battlefront games.
Right.
They knew where the strength of the series was, I think.
Yeah. Okay. fine. I'll drive the Millennium Falcon around on the ground, whatever.
You do that.
Well, that's it for this week in gaming news headlines. You're listening to Z Games.
Ray and Lee, you have both been playing a very cute-looking platformer over the last week, which is called Never Alone. It's a game about two characters, right? One of them is a little girl and the other one is an Arctic fox.
Yes, one of them's an Inuit hunter who is trying to put a stop to... well, initially she's looking for the source of a blizzard that, makes things difficult to hunt, and then she's tracking down the people who destroyed her village. And she is assisted by an Arctic fox, which is adorable. It's so cute. Too cute, in fact.
Too cute. Does something bad happen to the fox? I know that bad things happen to dogs in video games as a general rule. Does bad things happen to the fox?
No, but something bad can happen. It's a platformer, so you can fall into a pit, you can get squashed by a block. Those things do happen. And if either the fox or the little girl dies, then the other one is too sad to continue.
Yeah.
And you have to restart.
Yeah.
Which is a bit heartbreaking.
It is, it's difficult. Also, the fox looks just like my puppy, like exactly like it. And whenever anything bad happens to it, I get very sad and look over at my dog. And then whenever anything bad happens to the little girl in the game, and then the dog on screen is sad and makes a sad Arctic fox sound, my dog's ears prick up and he looks around trying to find out what is upsetting this other real dog nearby. So I can't play it with him.
It's effective, but he doesn't sound like a great co-op partner anyway.
No, he's awful. He's terrible. His reflexes are rubbish. Yeah.
So you can control either the fox or the little girl at the time, or if you have two players, you can both control. But a lot of the puzzles are based on that premise. So the little girl can move blocks. She has a holer, which is like a slingshot thing that you can use to throw and break ice. Whereas the fox can climb ledges and is a bit more nimble. And the fox also has a connection with the animal spirits, which come out of nowhere to help them on their journey, which is quite interesting.
So what do the spirits do?
Generally, they form platforms for the most part, but they also look great.
Right.
They're these rad indigenous paintings that have come to life. So there'll be this big, long-headed crane spirit or wind creatures that float in out of the snow to assist you, mostly by letting you stand on their head.
How nice of them.
Yeah. It's the game is narrated the whole way through in I think it's the Inupiat language, and the developer Upper One Games is actually the first wholly indigenous-owned developer in the United States, and this whole thing was developed as a means of preserving the language and the culture. And so one of the great things about it is that as you encounter new things like the Owl Man, or like the Little People, or all these other entities from Inuit mythology, you get a little link to a video, and there's quite a lot of these little documentary bits explaining this culture. It's a really cool idea and a great way to share this information.
Yeah, so every gameplay element that they've introduced is based upon one aspect of the Inuit culture, and every time a gameplay thing is introduced or a new character comes up, you get these, as Lee said, these short 1.5 minute long vignettes that are all completely filmed and look great.
Yeah.
It's almost half game, half documentary. It really, it's educational as well.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
Yes, it's I think it's worthwhile to track down just for that, just for the insight into a culture that we particularly don't really get to interact with, and it's just it's nice. It's a nice experience to sit down and play this. It reminds me a lot of. It's very comforting in a way that bits of Limbo were, and playing parts of Bastion, which was also narrated the whole way through. There's just something nice about sitting down and having a story told to you as you're as you're playing through.
It reminds me most of all of last year's Valiant Hearts: The Great War,
Right.
which was a similar platform puzzle game that was based on World War One, and it was educational as well. Like every time there was an item that came up in the game, there was a prompt to get more information about it, and you actually learnt stuff about the war. And both games are kind of sad in their way. It's very melancholy, so they have that in common. I think if you enjoyed Valiant Hearts, the experience that it gave, Never Alone is definitely something worth checking out.
Yeah. It's a nice game. You know, it looks really, really good. The snow effects are fantastic. The sound work is really, really great. The characters control quite well. They're a bit floaty. The puzzles you encounter aren't particularly new or innovative, but it's never particularly annoying. And yeah, it's something that I'm glad exists because I wasn't expecting anyone to ever make something like this, and I hope a lot of people check it out because there's nothing else like that.
I have one question.
Fire away.
Does it have polar bears?
Yes.
Good.
Within like seconds.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So there you go.
There's a chase sequence close to the start of the game with a polar bear chasing you, and it's pretty scary.
Yeah.
Those things are terrifying.
They are.
It's really big.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Maybe you don't want to play it.
Maybe I don't.
Yeah.
A small issue I had with the game is playing in single-player mode. Whether you're the little girl or the fox, the other one is controlled by the computer. And sometimes when timing was of the essence, like if someone was throwing something at you or there's blocks that are moving, sometimes the other character would get squashed, and it wasn't your fault because they were just a bit lagging behind you a little bit.
Yeah, I definitely noticed that. There were times where the fox was perfectly fine to navigate the jumping puzzles behind me, and other times where just straight off the edge, just right into the ether, like a death wish, you know? And I was surprised by that. It's jarring, actually.
Yeah, it annoyed me on more than one occasion, but I imagine if you had a co-op partner, that would be a non-issue.
Yeah, then
you'd be annoyed at a real person.
Exactly.
Yes, that's right.
Entertaining.
You can punch a real person.
Yes.
Okay, that is Never Alone, and that's available for the PC.
Yep.
We played it on the PS4.
We did.
What else is it available on?
Just give me one moment and I'll be able to tell you. So, yes, it's on the PC, it's on the PlayStation 4, it's on the Xbox One. It is out on OS X as well, and they have announced a Wii U version sometime.
The song that we just heard was Power Glove with Metal Combat for the Mortal Man. You're listening to Z Games. My name Razor, and joining me, Lee and Jody. We have been playing Mortal Kombat X, or Mortal Kombat 10, if you'd prefer to use the numerical representation of the letter X.
Like a nerd.
Yeah.
Look, that's entirely up to you, listener, which way you wanna do that. Shout it out now, though, at your radio, and we will tally up the results as we can listen to the things that you say. Like all radios, they are hooked back up to the station broadcasting.
Mortal Kombat has an amazing legacy.
Just move on.
Back in 93 or something like that, I remember wandering into an arcade. I was a young chap, highly impressionable, and I saw this game that was being played, and a couple of teenagers were playing it, and one of them ripped the other one's head off.
Is that in game?
In game, yes,
Okay.
and held it out with the spine dangling down, and I was shocked. That was crazy, but it had an immediate impact on me. I thought, this is crazy, this is cool, this is awesome, and I was very intrigued by Scorpion, who when he took his mask off, he had a skull under there.
Yeah,
Like, who is this crazy skull man?
What a surprise, right?
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, by the way.
So it was shocking at the time. It was not only because of the violence, but because of the way that the characters were portrayed in the game. They were actually digitized. I guess they were real actors who were filmed doing their moves. So that was pretty shocking as well.
Yes.
Yeah, it didn't look like anything else.
So we've had 10 Mortal Kombat games. This is the 10th one. And progressively they become more and more shocking, I guess, because you don't want to not do as well as the last one.
Right.
So this one we have potentially, I think, is the most graphic and brutal Mortal Kombat to date, rightly?
Yes, but at the same time, it seems quite charmingly tame. Like, it is absurd, the kind of body horror that goes on in this game, but it also has the loveliest story of a family trying to get back together in it of any game I can think of in recent memory. So it's violent and gory, and bits come off that you're probably not expecting to see come off in a video game. Things get smushed that you'd prefer weren't smushed. But for me, it's so cartoonish that like it doesn't really offend me.
What I was reminded of when we were playing it was the Image comics of the 1990s, the Rob Liefeld kind of superhero stuff, when everything was ridiculously over the top and juvenile and dark and grim and gritty and edgy and also really silly at the same time, but unaware of it.
Yeah. And
that's what this is like, and it's delightful.
Yeah, I think that they are aware that they're silly.
Yes, I think this is.
Yeah. Yeah. The most recent one, since Mortal Kombat 9, which NetherRealm did a couple of years ago, was also very much aware of the silliness of their franchise and the seriousness of the genre that they sat in and how they could start to define themselves. And they really have taken that to heart. They're fun games to play, whereas you can't necessarily say that about a lot of other fighters. They're good games to play against other people, and they're fun to play against other people, but they're also just like, maybe take yourself less seriously, Tekken. No one cares. Yeah. But this one we discussed last week. I had some first impressions. Now we have all played. Jody, you spent a lot of time with Cassie Cage. Is she your new best friend?
She's one of the new characters and is immediately the most interesting. As someone who didn't grow up playing the Mortal Kombat games and doesn't give a toss who Raiden or Scorpion or Sub-Zero is, she was the most immediately interesting because she's basically Miley Cyrus as a special ops agent, and one of her slow-motion X-ray brutalizing moves is that she punches her opponent's testicles up into their body and then uses guns to crack their skull and then shoots them in the head.
Yes.
And then 5 seconds later, they're fine.
Yeah.
Which is one of the most hilarious things about this game. Is not just how incredibly over-the-top gory it is, but how there are no lasting effects for any of that until the end of the match. Like, the fatality at the end when you actually electrocute someone's eyeballs out, that'll kill them. But the 3 times you did that before then, they're fine.
Yeah.
They just took about 3/4 of their health off, yeah.
Yeah, the X-ray moves are a move you get access to once you've filled up a bar by getting hit or doing special moves. And when these things land, there's an extended sequence where you violence a person's body and you get to see through their skin to see what terrible things are happening to the bones and the organs beneath. So there's a lot of skulls cracking, jaws cracking, mostly rib cages and spines shattering.
A lot of that, yeah.
A lot of that. A lot of spines shattering, and then the person will get back up and could possibly punch you to death after that happens.
Easily.
Yeah. Yeah. Ray, you're smiling. You're thinking about terrible violence right now, aren't you?
Yeah, but in a nice way.
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a lot of fun with Mortal Kombat. We got to play multiplayer.
Mm-hmm.
The balance seems to be good. Mm-hmm. All the characters, very fun to play. I went the opposite of Jody's method, where he chose to specialize in Cassie Cage. I tried to get a feel for all of the characters, and I think a lot of them are really good. Scorpion, a returning favorite of mine.
Yeah.
He's really cool. Sub-Zero as well. He's an old man now who knows everyone's dad.
Yeah, that
was very funny.
That is one of the wonderful things about this. That they've set it 20 years after the conclusion of the last one, which was also the conclusion of the third game, because NetherRealm have also determined that the middle games never happened, and they were right to do that. And so all of the characters from the original trilogy are all old and have beards now. That's as an indicator of their age. And
it's just how grizzled they are.
Yeah, and everyone goes on at length about how they knew the parents of the new characters. It's so good.
What I really like are the little quips before the matches that seem to be personalized for every possible combination of fighter. So depending on which two fighters are pitted against each other, they'll have something to say to each other that's usually offensive or relates to their history, which I thought was a pretty cool little thing. It's character building.
Yep. Yeah, that's a neat inclusion for them to have there. Although it does make it difficult because there are two of the new characters are the daughters of old characters. Actually, there's also Takeda, who is the son of Kenji, and you can have a matchup where father and son or mother and daughter beat the hell out of each other, which starts with them talking about their familial relationship and then could end with like a fatality. And that's a bit difficult, right?
Yeah, but this is a genre where people routinely fight themselves.
Yeah, okay.
Without blinking an eye, just because both players might want to be Ken. So, yeah.
I guess so they're used to the idea of
Yes.
doing horrible violence to someone they care a great deal about.
Exactly.
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
I really like the continuity aspect of the Mortal Kombat series. With each game, it seems like the events of the last game did actually happen, and this is a follow-up to it, as opposed to games like Street Fighter and Tekken, which, for all I know, they might have a story, but it just seems to be like the cast of the old game plus here's 10 more, and that's what's happening.
Yeah.
But with Mortal Kombat here, you get a sense that time has passed, the events did actually happen, and there's an overwhelming sense of legacy and heritage with this game, like nods to the past, which I really enjoyed.
Yeah, I actually remember... so the first time that they omitted characters from the cast was for Mortal Kombat 2, which didn't have Kano and Sonya Blade. And people were confused about why that was. They were actually visible, like, chained up in the background of the final level, and people were like, is this, because they're free, or, can you unlock them somehow? And that was a memory issue that they weren't included. And then I remember when the third one came out, Johnny Cage wasn't in it. I was really worried he was dead. Did he die? I had to know. And I wasn't alone. I wasn't the only 12 or 13-year-old who was really worried about Johnny Cage. And then they put out a version that included him, and I felt a great sense of relief. But leading up to the release of this game, when I knew that his daughter was going to be in it as Cassie, again, I was like, well, it's 20 years later. Like, is he dead? They've killed people before. Liu Kang has died like 4 times. And is usually a ghost in the game. So I have a connection to this dumb punching idiot.
Yeah. A lot of people do. It seems like the game that people form connections with their characters in a way, like you have your favorite character in Street Fighter, you don't actually care about their backstory or who they are.
Yeah.
Nobody really minds, and you know that they're probably going to be in every Street Fighter game from now on anyway, because it's just sort of solidified into the same thing over and over, whereas it seems more like Mortal Kombat actually does have some kind of evolution going on, which is strange in fighting games. The sport nature of them means that they become static. Like, there's an ideal version of them, and changing them would be like changing the rules of football.
Yeah. They've really doubled down on that idea that they should tell the story of Mortal Kombat, which you would think would be the worst possible use of their resources, and yet is one of the best things to recommend the game for. I have finished the storyline, and it's not as good as Mortal Kombat 9, but at the same time it's ludicrous, and it's like an 8-hour long, super well produced weirdo movie about a bunch of fools punching each other for contrived reasons.
It's a great dumb action movie.
Yeah, I love it. So we sat down and played that for a good while. And Ray, you were in control.
Yep.
What was your experience like?
I felt like this was the best Mortal Kombat film ever made. It really was. I mean, yeah, sure, the characterization is a bit silly. Everything is ridiculous.
Yeah.
The setting, everybody is weird. But, it's a story that the plot moves along, and that's more than you can say about Mortal Kombat or Mortal Kombat Annihilation.
Yeah.
And there's a big budget there. Like, there's real set pieces and stuff like that. It felt really... I don't know, it's like the guys who made the game are the best ones to tell the story.
Yeah, okay.
And, yeah.
And you would never say that usually, right?
No, not at all. But just the mad folly of it is so impressive that they threw so much time and effort and money at this ridiculous thing.
Yeah.
It's impressive.
Yeah. When you were playing, Ray, I remember you saying that there are a lot of times there would be a sequence. Sometimes there are quick time events, and then you would go from that into a fight. And you were often confused because you were siding with the other person in the conflict, and you weren't sure who the protagonist of that particular section is, because it goes through each of the main cast. They all have a chapter, and they all have 4 fights and a story surrounding that. And I just want to point out that this means that in the bit that you played, that I saw, you were siding with evil ghosts who were trying to kill the defenders of Earth, an evil sorcerer god that was trying to kill everyone on the Earth, and a murderous weapons dealer. Like, this is who you were empathizing with over the course of your playtime, and you were confused when you weren't actually playing as them all of a sudden.
Yeah, well, this guy breaks into someone's house and steals a statue. I thought that guy needed to be taught a lesson, but apparently he was the good guy, and I had to whoop the guy who busted me. I mean, it doesn't make sense.
That's how rich the ideological conflict in Mortal Kombat 10 is. It's confusing. Who's in the right? You don't know. There's shades of grey.
Okay, we were discussing Mortal Kombat, which I think we all agree is a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
We all like Mortal Kombat X / Mortal Kombat 10. So, Jody, just before we move on, away from ultra hyper violence, or maybe onto a new topic related to that, what was the coolest thing that you think you experienced with Mortal Kombat?
It was actually something that you did to me while I was playing Cassie Cage and you were playing the old ghost cowboy dude.
Yep.
You pulled out your revolver and shot a bullet which in slow motion went inside my skeleton, hit my hip bone, ricocheted up through my internal organs, then ricocheted off maybe a rib, and then up into my skull and out of my head, all in close-up, gory X-ray footage, and it was amazing. I didn't even care that you had just knocked half of my health away. I was so impressed.
The other cool thing about that is that as the bullet's flying through the air, it rotates around, and you see that the other character's name was written on the bullet.
Yes.
Yeah.
The personal touch.
Yeah. It's what you want out of a fatality, I think. Yes. Ray, how about you?
In the game, you can interact with the background.
Yeah.
In some of the locations.
Yes.
So when you're in a certain spot, you push whatever button and you can do that. One of my favorite things was the praying monks that seemed to be minding their own business, just happened to be praying next to where 2 demigods were battling.
Yep.
And if you can just pick them up and hurl them at the other character.
Weaponized monk.
Yeah, it's hilarious. There's also an old lady I think you can throw. Very, very funny, hilarious.
Yes. You get an achievement for throwing that old woman. Her name is Blanche, and we were discussing the nature of the old woman in this game, because she's in the marketplace scene, just walking around there beside an enormous tiger beast that you can leap off, whilst 2 monsters or superhumans are punching blood out of each other. And so she's a member of the Outworld, and she's an old woman, which means that she's probably gotten into like 20 Mortal Kombat contests in her life to survive to that age. And I hope we find out what her deal is. Yeah. So I think I'm going to go with that. I want to know this old woman's story. I think it's time.
Mm-hmm. Blanche as a playable character in Mortal Kombat 11.
Yeah. Make it happen.
Okay, just before we wrap up, though, there is a microtransaction element to this game, which surprised me a little bit, Lee.
Yeah. So it's an interesting thing. When it was announced, everyone got angry, and now I don't care about it. basically, as you play through the game, you accumulate coins, which you then spend in the crypt. All of these are K words, by the way, because Mortal Kombat's like that. You go through the crypt and you spend these coins on unlockables, new outfits, new fatalities, stuff like that. There are also tokens that allow you to skip fights in the story mode, and other tokens for easy fatalities. And if you have tokens for easy fatalities, you then just have to you hold in one button and press another button, and you can do a fatality like that. So they are also selling these tokens on the PlayStation Store and on Xbox Live and Steam for like $1 a piece or less than that. I think it is actually. I think they're like 50 or 20 cents each. And I don't have a real problem with that. Like, microtransactions are rubbish, but they're not going away, so I have to choose my moral battles, right? And I think if people want to skip past the fact that you have to put in 4 directions and then press a button to see a fatality, then whatever, man. That's your money that is going towards the creation of more Mortal Kombat, right? I don't feel too challenged by this on any front. I think it's potentially a bad idea the way that it was being reported initially, but now that I know that it's a token that you expend, then whatever, right?
Yeah, I can see a little bit why some people might take offense to it. I know that within the fighting game community, the ability to input these complex commands it's integral to it, right? It's sort of...
Yeah.
But as well as that, there's that kind of nostalgia thing where you remember when you were playing the first Mortal Kombat and you had the fatalities weren't available, but you had to buy a magazine or something, or you had to figure them out yourself. That was a big part of it.
Yeah.
And this kind of lets you cheat that in a way.
Yeah, but if you press the start button, you can see the command to put a fatality in anyway, and they've certainly been made a lot easier to perform regardless. There's another set of fatality-like things called brutalities, which are moves that you do midway through a complicated combo attack, and those things are really, really hard. I can't do them. I'll never be able to do them. I feel sad about that. There's no way that you can cheat those, and those actually affect the game. If you have already beaten someone to the point where you get to perform a fatality, you were already good enough at the game, and the only person that you are cheating out of this is the version of you that feels any kind of elation after putting in 4 directions and then pressing punch in the right spot on the screen. That's it. That's who's hurt.
I mean, at the end of the day, you're not forced to buy the tokens or whatever, so if you don't like that aspect of the game, it's just easy to ignore it.
Yeah.
We've been talking about Mortal Kombat 10, which is available for the PC, PlayStation 4, and the Xbox One. Over the weekend, or earlier this week, we played a game called Primal Carnage Extinction. It's an independently made game from developers out of Las Vegas, and it features a team of dinosaur hunters in a battle arena fighting dinosaurs. That's the premise. So it plays... For the hunters, it's a first-person shooter, much like Quake. That sort of that fast-paced first-person action. As a dinosaur, you're in the third-person perspective.
Yeah.
And you've got a whole bunch of moves like roaring and snarling and
different moves for different kinds of dinosaur. There's a pteranodon, there's a Deinonychus, there's a raptor and a pteranodon, and a Carnotaur, and then different classes for the humans. So it's a bit like Team Fortress 2. The scientist is a sniper, the trapper can shoot out nets, and there's a soldier and a flamethrower guy. Everybody plays slightly differently. And the dinosaurs, it really does make a huge difference when you're the larger dinosaurs. It doesn't feel like there's a lot of balance.
Yeah.
Because if you're actually playing as a huge Carnotaur who can... kill people just by running over them. You don't even actually have to attack them. and then you're a tiny, what are they called, Dilophosaurus?
Yeah.
The guys who spit, spitty dudes.
Yes.
If you're Spitty McSpitty the dinosaur, you don't feel nearly as effective. You feel a bit rubbish, in fact.
Yeah, that was my feeling with it. The premise alone is amazing. That should be the best game ever made. But I felt when I was playing, I felt entirely ineffective as a human. Whatever I did was nothing. Dinosaurs weren't dying at all. I had a machine gun which I unloaded in a dinosaur's face, and if he could have, he would have winked at me and laughed. And then eviscerated me. It was embarrassing. I feel bad for the manufacturer of that machine gun, in fact.
Yeah, when I first entered the game, I noticed there was an imbalance of player numbers where more people went for the dinosaurs rather than the humans.
What a surprise.
Yeah, and when I was playing as a human, I just felt like I was prey.
Yeah.
I was just running around waiting to be killed. My shotgun did nothing. It seemed to do nothing. I killed a couple of dinosaurs, like small dinosaurs, but you talked about the huge, hulking, lumbering dinosaurs that just run over you. There's not much you can do against them.
No.
It seems like you have to coordinate with other people to take down the larger dinosaurs, and that just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like everyone has a weapon that's good for that. The scientist who was a sniper has a tranquilizer gun, and shooting a dart in a big dinosaur will slow it down so that the others can coordinate and attack it. And in some other dimension, that might have happened once or twice, but it hasn't happened here.
Yes, if the human race wasn't garbage, we'd be able to work with other strangers to achieve our goals, but unfortunately that's not what happened.
Or if there was more than one or two servers you could join full of random strangers, then maybe there would be some where people actually did work together.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
You don't have a lot of choice.
No. It looks nice. The dinosaurs move quite well, and I enjoyed playing as a pteranodon, even though...
The flying's fun.
The flying is really fun. Like, I just want a game where I play a pteranodon, because they've nailed that. But the thing that the pteranodon is supposed to be able to do is, like, leap down and grab people with your feet and then fly them up and drop them. Which, again, like, if that was the whole premise of the game, like, game of the year, every year. But... Again, I felt ineffective. The button to do that, I wasn't sure that was the button that did that, because pressing that button didn't seem to do anything. I never actually managed to lift a human up and drop them. And I think the disappointment was such that I left the game at that point, and I never returned.
The animations are surprisingly subtle for a game about giant dinosaurs. You would think there would be a lot more, like... snappiness to their attacks, but they just sort of seem to like reach the head out a little bit.
Yeah.
And like you have no idea if you've actually hit someone with that or not.
There's a lot of vague pecking.
Yeah, that's what I just feel like a chicken.
Yeah.
So we've been talking about Primal Carnage Extinction. Was there a message that you wanted to give, Jody, to people who are maybe contemplating this game?
I think there's a much better game about humans and dinosaurs fighting each other on the internet, and that is Dino D-Day, which is a very similar concept but set in World War II, which is a plus. And both sides have humans and dinosaurs, so even if you get stuck playing as the Nazis, you still get to pick whether you're a dude with a gun or a dinosaur. And some of the dinosaurs also have guns, so that's immediately more entertaining.
Yeah, we should have played that.
Yeah, you should have.
Primal Carnage Extinction is available via Steam. Just got a 1.0 full release, I think last week or the week before.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, this has been Z Games. That'll bring us to the end of the show. Guys, thanks once again for joining us. It's been fun. Catch you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye.